Most people think billionaires have secret information. They imagine hidden deals, insider tips, some mysterious formula that only a few elites are allowed to know. That belief is comforting because it excuses failure. If success is secret, then not having it isn't your fault. But the uncomfortable truth is this: the real rules billionaires follow are not secret at all. They're simply unpopular, boring, and brutally demanding. And that's why almost no one follows them. Most people believe success comes from making brilliant moves, but that belief quietly destroys more potential than failure ever could. The reality is far less glamorous and far more demanding. The greatest advantage high achievers build is not extraordinary intelligence, insider knowledge, or bold risk-taking. It is the disciplined habit of avoiding obvious stupidity. That may sound unimpressive, but over time, it separates those who merely look smart from those who actually win. Stupidity shows up in predictable forms. It appears as emotional decisions made under pressure, ego-driven choices made for status, and financial moves made without understanding risk. It shows up as unnecessary debt, impulsive investments, and partnerships formed without considering incentives. None of these mistakes feel catastrophic in the moment. In fact, many feel exciting. But excitement is rarely a signal of wisdom. It is usually a warning sign that judgment is being replaced by emotion. What truly matters is survival and consistency. If you stay in the game long enough without making fatal errors, compounding begins to work in your favor. This is where most people fail. They interrupt progress with impatience. They sabotage steady growth with one reckless decision. They underestimate how much damage a single bad move can do to years of disciplined effort. One moment of stupidity can erase a decade of intelligent behavior. Those who succeed long-term develop a deep respect for downside risk. They ask a different set of questions. Instead of asking how much they can gain, they first ask how much they can lose. They don't assume things will work out. They assume they can go wrong and plan accordingly. This mindset doesn't make life smaller. It makes progress more durable. Avoiding ruin is the first requirement for building anything that lasts. Another uncomfortable truth is that avoiding stupidity requires humility. You must accept that you are not as smart as you feel on your best day and not as rational as you believe under pressure. That awareness changes behavior. It leads to simpler strategies, wider margins of safety, and fewer decisions made in haste. Complexity often disguises ignorance, while simplicity forces clarity. Those who insist on being clever often trap themselves in fragile systems they don't fully understand. The irony is that this approach rarely looks impressive to others. It lacks drama. It doesn't generate stories worth bragging about. Yet it quietly outperforms over time. While others chase breakthroughs, disciplined individuals remove landmines from their path. While others focus on upside fantasies, they quietly protect their downside. Over decades, this behavior compounds into extraordinary results, not because of genius, but because progress was never destroyed by preventable mistakes. Most people misunderstand patience. They confuse it with passivity, hesitation, or fear. In reality, patience is an active discipline that requires more control than constant action ever will. Those who achieve exceptional results are not always busy, but they are always alert. They are watching, learning, and quietly preparing while others mistake movement for progress. The instinct to act quickly is deeply emotional. Doing something feels productive, even when it's unnecessary. Waiting feels uncomfortable because it exposes uncertainty. Yet the world does not reward constant motion. It rewards correct timing. Acting too early locks you into mediocre outcomes, while acting too late costs you the opportunity entirely. Mastery lies in resisting both impulses. High performers spend long stretches doing very little that is visible. They think, refine their understanding, and let situations develop. This waiting is not idle. It is selective preparation. They are building clarity so that when the moment arrives, hesitation disappears. When conditions finally align, action is swift, concentrated, and decisive. There is no second guessing because the thinking was done in advance. This behavior looks strange to observers. From the outside, it can appear as inactivity or even laziness. But restraint is often the highest form of intelligence. Acting prematurely feels heroic. Waiting feels boring. That boredom is precisely what filters most people out. The ability to tolerate boredom without manufacturing action is a rare advantage. Another critical element is emotional control. Impatience is driven by fear of missing out, envy of others' progress, or the need to feel important. Hesitation, on the other hand, is driven by fear of being wrong. Both are emotional failures. Those who excel learn to sit comfortably between these extremes. They neither rush nor freeze. They let facts, not feelings, dictate behavior. When decisive action is required, it often feels uncomfortable as well. The opportunity may be unpopular, misunderstood, or temporarily unpleasant. This is why preparation matters. Without prior thinking, decisive action feels reckless. With preparation, it feels inevitable. The difference is invisible but decisive. Most failures are not caused by a lack of intelligence, but by poor timing. People rush into situations they don't understand or hesitate when clarity finally arrives. The cost of these errors compounds over time. Learning when to wait and when to act is not a single skill, but a lifelong discipline refined through experience, reflection, and restraint. Those who master this balance gain an edge that appears almost unfair. They avoid the exhaustion of constant activity and the regret of missed opportunity. Their progress looks sudden, but it is the result of long periods of quiet patience followed by moments of focused, intelligent action. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of compounding because its effects are invisible in the early stages. In the beginning, progress feels slow, almost disappointing. Effort seems disconnected from reward, which leads many to abandon sensible paths in favor of exciting alternatives. This impatience is costly. Compounding does not reward intensity, it rewards continuity. The individuals who benefit from it most are not the most talented, but the most consistent. Compounding operates quietly across every area of life, not just money. Knowledge compounds when learning is sustained. Reputation compounds when behavior is reliable. Health compounds when habits are repeated. Relationships compound when trust is built steadily. Yet most people interrupt these processes constantly. They change strategies too soon, react emotionally to short-term outcomes, or abandon systems before they have time to work. Each interruption resets progress and extends the timeline unnecessarily. What makes compounding powerful is its asymmetry. Small advantages, applied repeatedly, create outcomes that appear disproportionate to the effort involved. Conversely, small mistakes repeated over time quietly erode progress. This is why discipline matters more than dramatic action. One reckless decision can undo years of steady accumulation, while one patient year rarely looks impressive on its own. The real gains show up later, often all at once, when momentum has been allowed to build uninterrupted. Those who understand compounding structure their decisions differently. They prioritize durability over speed. They avoid actions that produce immediate rewards at the expense of long-term strength. They resist the urge to optimize for short-term validation. Instead, they ask whether a decision will still look intelligent 5, 10, or 20 years from now. This long view acts as a filter, removing many tempting but destructive choices before they can cause harm. Another critical element is staying in the game. Compounding only works for those who survive. This requires avoiding catastrophic losses, burnout, and reputation-damaging behavior. Many intelligent people fail not because they lack skill, but because they remove themselves from the process too early. They chase shortcuts, take oversized risks, or allow frustration to override judgment. Stability may not feel exciting, but it is essential. The irony is that compounding rewards behavior that often feels unrewarding in the moment. Reading daily instead of binge learning. Saving regularly instead of speculating. Improving incrementally instead of reinventing constantly. These actions rarely generate applause, but over time they create an advantage that becomes extremely difficult for others to catch up to. Once compounding reaches a certain point, progress accelerates. What once felt slow suddenly appears effortless. Observers call it luck or timing, unaware of the years of consistency that made the outcome possible. In reality, the result was predictable the moment discipline replaced impatience and continuity was allowed to do its work. One of the rarest and most valuable abilities a person can develop is the capacity to see themselves clearly. Not generously, not harshly, but accurately. Progress does not begin with confidence. It begins with truth. Most people spend enormous energy protecting their self-image, defending past decisions, and explaining away mistakes. This may preserve comfort, but it quietly blocks improvement. Reality, unlike ego, does not negotiate. Self-honesty requires an uncomfortable willingness to admit ignorance. It means acknowledging when you do not understand something well enough to act intelligently. This restraint is often mistaken for weakness, yet it is a form of strength. Acting without understanding feels bold, but it is usually reckless. Those who advance steadily learn to pause, ask better questions, and withhold action until clarity exists. They would rather miss an opportunity than participate in something they do not truly comprehend. Another difficult aspect of self-honesty is recognizing personal limitations. Everyone has areas where they consistently perform poorly, often due to temperament rather than intelligence. Ignoring this leads to repeated mistakes. Accepting it allows for intelligent design. People who understand themselves structure their lives to minimize exposure to their weaknesses and maximize leverage over their strengths. They do not try to become someone else. They become more effective versions of who they already are. Self-deception is costly because it compounds. Each time a mistake is rationalized instead of examined, the same pattern becomes more likely to repeat. Over time, this creates a false narrative of competence while results quietly deteriorate. In contrast, those who confront errors directly extract value from failure. They analyze what went wrong without drama, ego, or self-pity. The goal is not to feel better, but to be better. Clear self-assessment also sharpens decision-making under pressure. When you understand your biases, you can account for them before they influence behavior. You learn when to slow down, when to seek outside perspectives, and when to avoid decisions entirely. This awareness acts as a buffer against impulsive action, especially in environments that reward speed over accuracy. The most powerful advantage of self-honesty is that it aligns expectations with reality. You stop chasing outcomes that are inconsistent with your abilities, values, or circumstances. This alignment reduces frustration and increases effectiveness. Energy is no longer wasted on pretending, defending, or compensating. It is redirected toward improvement and execution. People who practice self-honesty may not appear confident in the traditional sense, but they possess something far more valuable: reliability. Their decisions are grounded, their progress is steady, and their mistakes are temporary. Over time, this creates a form of quiet authority. Not because they claim to know everything, but because they are disciplined enough to admit when they do not, and intelligent enough to act accordingly. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act, and then wonder why their results are inconsistent. Motivation is an emotional state, and emotional states are unreliable. They fluctuate with mood, energy, and circumstances. Building anything meaningful on such a fragile foundation is a strategic error. Those who produce durable results understand this early and design their behavior around discipline instead. Discipline is not intensity, it is predictability. It is the ability to perform necessary actions regardless of how one feels in the moment. This often appears unremarkable from the outside. There is no surge of excitement, no dramatic transformation, and no visible struggle. Yet this quiet consistency creates outcomes that emotional effort cannot match. The real advantage is not working harder on good days, but refusing to stop on ordinary ones. Relying on motivation creates a cycle of starts and stops. When enthusiasm is high, action follows. When it fades, progress halts. Over time, this pattern produces frustration and self-doubt. Discipline breaks this cycle by removing decision-making from daily behavior. When actions are scheduled and standardized, they no longer depend on willpower. This preserves mental energy for decisions that actually matter. Those who value discipline build systems that make correct behavior easier and incorrect behavior harder. They organize their environment to support focus rather than test restraint. Distractions are reduced, routines are simplified, and defaults are chosen carefully. This is not about self-control in the heroic sense. It is about intelligent design. The less you rely on self-control, the more consistent your performance becomes. Another overlooked benefit of discipline is its effect on confidence. Motivation creates short bursts of belief disconnected from results. Discipline creates evidence. Each completed task, each maintained habit, and each kept commitment reinforces trust in oneself. This trust is not emotional, it is earned. Over time, it becomes a stabilizing force that does not collapse under pressure or uncertainty. Discipline also protects against burnout. Constant emotional effort is exhausting. Systems, once established, require less energy to maintain than to create. When behavior becomes automatic, mental strain decreases and sustainability increases. This allows for long-term progress without the need for constant inspiration or external validation. Many people resist discipline because it feels restrictive. In reality, it creates freedom. When essential behaviors are handled automatically, attention is freed for creativity, judgment, and learning. Discipline does not limit potential. It preserves it by ensuring that progress continues even when enthusiasm fades. The individuals who excel are rarely the most motivated. They are the most reliable. They show up when it is boring, when results are invisible, and when no one is watching. Over time, this reliability compounds into skill, credibility, and opportunity, producing outcomes that motivation alone could never sustain. Most people believe success is primarily about setting ambitious goals, yet they rarely examine the surroundings in which they attempt to achieve them. This oversight quietly undermines effort. Human behavior is heavily influenced by environment, far more than by intention. Willpower may initiate change, but environment determines whether that change survives. Those who understand this do not rely on constant self-control. They arrange their surroundings to make intelligent behavior the natural default. Every environment carries invisible incentives. Some reward focus, patience, and long-term thinking. Others encourage distraction, impulsiveness, and emotional reactions. People often blame themselves for inconsistent performance without realizing that their surroundings are actively working against them. Noise, poor company, constant interruption, and low standards slowly erode judgment. Improvement becomes difficult not because of lack of ability, but because of constant friction. Those who achieve sustained success are unusually selective about where they place themselves. They limit exposure to environments that normalize poor decisions, even if those environments are socially comfortable. They choose circles where learning is expected, preparation is respected, and excuses are not rewarded. This selectivity is not arrogance, it is self-preservation. Bad environments do not merely slow progress, they distort thinking. Another overlooked aspect of environment is information. What you consume repeatedly shapes how you perceive reality. Sensational contends the mind to seek novelty over depth. Constant opinions crowd out independent thought. Those who protect their mental environment are careful about what they read, watch, and discuss. They prioritize sources that reward clarity rather than outrage. Over time, this creates a calmer, more rational decision-making process. Physical surroundings matter as well. Order reduces cognitive load. Simplicity improves focus. When your space supports concentration, fewer mental resources are wasted resisting distraction. This is not about aesthetics, it is about functionality. A well-designed environment removes unnecessary decisions and preserves attention for work that actually compounds. The most powerful aspect of environment design is that it works even when motivation is low. On difficult days, surroundings either pull you forward or drag you backward. A supportive environment quietly enforces standards without requiring emotional effort. This consistency is what allows progress to continue during periods of fatigue, doubt, or stress. Many people attempt self-improvement while refusing to change their environment. This is a losing strategy. It demands constant effort against constant resistance. Those who think long-term reverse the approach. They adjust the environment first, knowing behavior will follow. This shift turns improvement from a struggle into a process. Over time, the cumulative effect of a well-chosen environment is profound. Decision-making improves, discipline becomes easier, and progress feels less forced. What appears as personal strength from the outside is often the result of intelligent placement. By choosing environments carefully, individuals dramatically increase the probability of becoming the kind of person capable of achieving the outcomes they seek.